everybody, and welcome to the show. The Atheist Experience is live, February 23rd, 2003. I'm your host, Martin Wagner. Ashley Perrien, my co-host as always, and joining us on the show on the air. I haven't seen you in a while, sir.
I haven't seen me in a while either.
No, Russell Glasser, our occasional producer who has decided to join us today. We're very happy to have you. And you have some interesting stuff to talk about that we'll get to in a bit. But first, the announcements. As always, this show is sponsored by Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. AC holds weekly meetings every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. at Hot Jumbo Bagels, located downtown at 307 West 5th Street, between Guadalupe and Lavaca, except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series in the mayor room of the Austin History Center at downtown. That's located downtown at 9th and Guadalupe, that intersection. Next lecture is scheduled for the 2nd, I guess, of March, right? And do we have a name? Do we know who's...
No.
Okay. We might not have a speaker there. I don't know who's in charge of getting them, but, I guess when we get one, we'll tell you. Godless Gamers meets every Monday night, 7 o'clock p.m. at the home of Russell and Virginia Glasser, and Atheist Happy Hour takes place Thursday evenings at 7:30, 8. People trickle in all evening. That's at Antonio's Tex-Mex, Thursday evenings, located near the intersection of Highway 183 and I-35. That's lots of fun. The Nonprofits, our weekly internet radio show, is still on hiatus, and we're going to nag them until it's not. But it was terrific.
Like that'll help.
But you can go visit our website at atheist-community.org and take a look at the radio show page where you can get to MP3 streams of the last dozen or so episodes. Lots of fun, and I'm sure they'll bring it back when they're good and ready. And the University Atheists and Agnostics is a registered UT student organization, now in its second semester, founded by our very own Charles Taveney. And they have meetings every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. Is it 4 p.m. or 4:30 p.m.? We'll find out. It's 4 p.m. Right. There we are on the screen. At Rainey Hall, room 3.102A, and the address, the email address to write if you are a UT student or faculty member is uaa@mail.utexas.edu. First very successful student organization for unbelievers at UT, and we congratulate them very much. Okay. And finally, last but not least, this is just for the interest of folks who want to head out of town for a bit, the Atheist Alliance Convention this year takes place in Tampa, Florida, weekend of April 18th through the 20th. And their guests include such luminaries as James Randi and Richard Dawkins, foremost...
Right on. Two of my favorite skeptics.
Definitely. Foremost evolutionists in the world, and I'm sure this will be lots of good food and good talks and all kinds of fun. So if you visit our website at the calendar page of upcoming events, there is a link to the official page for the Atheist Alliance Convention this year. And I believe that does it for announcements. What's going on? Ashley, news.
Okay.
Tell us what's happening in the world.
All right. Keep news a bit short today because we have lots and lots of other stuff to go over. But a couple stories here. We'll start with the bad things. This was in Kenya. A Rwandan pastor and his son were found guilty of aiding and abetting genocide by a UN tribunal on Wednesday and sentenced to 10 and 25 years respectively for helping massacre ethnic Tutsis. This is back when they had
The pastor got 10 years and the son got 25?
Yes, apparently they did.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, maybe the son was doing more of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
They're accused of herding large groups of Tutsi men, women, and children into a church and hospital compound in the Kibuye region of western Rwanda in 1994, and then calling Hutus in to kill them.
Nice guys.
Yep. These were 78. He was a 78-year-old Seventh-day Adventist pastor. And, he was found guilty. An estimated 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed in the space of 100 days in Rwanda in 1994.
Wow.
So
that's pretty sad.
That is
very, very
horrible.
Grim situation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Rights groups say several church leaders from various denominations played a leading role in the killing and used their authority to encourage the massacres of Tutsis who tried to take refuge in the country's churches.
Yeah.
So they go to a church to try and get some refuge, and they just get on the phone.
And if you want to think it can't happen here,
Fred Phelps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just there are folks out there who would very much love to do that.
Yeah.
The whole idea of religion having been for centuries and centuries of our history, just this means of controlling populations and wielding political power and influence, has not changed.
Yeah.
And for all the nice face they try to put on what religion is supposed to be about, what it's really about is pretty grim stuff.
It can still do some very bad things.
Wow.
Simply being religious does not make you a good person. So, okay, next one. We have heard on the show many times about our friend and yours, Chief Justice Roy Moore.
Do we have to?
And
speaking of,
we'll keep it quick.
Speaking of people who might like to round people up in churches,
yeah, really,
have them all.
Chief Justice Roy Moore, he's the Alabama justice who put up the monument, this like 2-ton granite monument of the Ten Commandments, up in his courtroom, and they found
it was in the lobby of the Justice Building.
Yeah.
In Alabama, you walk in the door, it's the first thing you see.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. The whole place is set up like a church. It's got this whole feeling about it and everything.
And he snuck it in the middle of the night.
Stuck it in the middle of the night and allowed the Coral Ridge Ministries to film it and broadcast it.
And D. James Kennedy.
And the funny thing about this also
here in Austin
is they filmed it. They were the only news group who were allowed to film this. What they took is they sold those tapes. They collected the money, and then when the ACLU and the Poverty Center and everything brought him to court,
they had this legal fund. Yeah,
they have a legal fund now.
Yeah, so they knew
selling tapes of him illegally doing this act.
I think
sort of like a light version of snuff tapes.
Well, it's not. Well, you would think that why haven't other people thought of this? It's like, I know, I'll video myself doing the crime,
sell those,
and then
tapes.
and then put it up on eBay and make tons of money, so that when the cops come after me, I'll have like thousands and thousands of dollars to hire Johnny Cochran to get me off.
Wasn't that movie 15 Minutes about that basically?
Might have been. Oh, the guy. I didn't see it. Was that the one with the guys videotaping their own?
I don't remember it that well.
Okay,
but something like that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, that's the history behind this.
That's how long that movie lasted, I guess.
What's going on now is Coral Ridge Ministries, again, is back in the action. They're raising more money because the courts ruled that this is unconstitutional. You have to take it down, and now it's going on to appeal, of course. So they need more money, so they're selling more tapes.
Is it the same tape, or is this like the new special edition DVD version?
They might.
Judge Roy Moore breaks the law.
With commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know how those DVD makers get you. They release the same stuff, but then they put one little extra feature in there.
Yeah,
you got to buy the whole series again.
So you have to get buying the same movie like 6 times.
It's probably D. James Kennedy going, "Dear friends, these are troubled financial times, but we want you to stand with us prayerfully and financially." I listen to this stuff.
God, you poor.
So what they're looking to do is trying to raise another $150,000 for the appeal. And what they're doing is they're trying to raise this money by having posters where they show a man in jail, behind bars, clutching the bars, saying, "Must Justice Moore go to jail for acknowledging God?"
Has anybody suggested that he's going to jail?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
The likelihood that he would actually go to jail is infinitesimal.
And if he did go to jail, it would probably be for willful contempt of court over and over again, not for acknowledging God.
They have down here.
Exactly, yeah.
If Moore loses on appeal and he chooses not to remove the monument, he could be fined for contempt of court, but would not go to jail.
Yeah.
There is practically no way that he is going to jail.
Since when have fundamentalists
But they are just going to twist this into whatever way they can.
When have they ever troubled themselves with facts when it comes to promoting an agenda, which in this case is to theocratize our country?
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to promoting an agenda, it's all about get the public worked up emotionally, get them panicked, get them freaked out, and then they'll respond. That's how churches do this, and that's how they've done it from time immemorial, right?
Melchior, I guess the guy from this ministry's place, whatever, said there is no way to know if a justice would say the 10 Commandments are unconstitutional. Who knows what he might do? He might even throw a judge in jail.
Well,
again, let's stir up the pot of fear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, I love those weasel words like might.
Yeah.
Might. Yeah.
If they do this, then they might do that.
The old slippery slope.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming into play. Yeah,
exactly.
Slip sliding away here.
So.
Yeah.
So yeah, these people are just trying to scrape up whatever support they can get. And hopefully, they're getting very, very little. But
well, probably not, because
I
the kinds of the people that respond to this kind of stuff, again, don't care about the facts.
Exactly.
They have been convinced of this propaganda line that there's this horrible evil movement afoot to banish all religion and all mention of God from every nook and cranny in America.
Yeah.
Which
and they've
even
been led to be
hardcore atheists with a TV show don't want.
Well,
I know we would not support that.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't do it. I mean, I won't lie if I were to say to myself, if I woke up tomorrow, right, and found out that everyone in the nation had suddenly all at once decided to be rational and there's no more religion, I'd be a real happy guy. But I'm not out there actively trying to take away anybody's religious rights to religious freedom.
Absolutely not.
we're not going to say that they can't say whatever they want to say.
And again, the only thing is, the only point that needs to be reiterated about all these church-state separation conflicts is that it's simply about government involvement in religion. That's why I think maybe the whole phrase separation of church and state is sufficiently vague, because it allows people like Judge Roy Moore and D. James Kennedy and their ilk, to conflate, to confuse the issue, right? When maybe we should, start using terminology more like separation of government from religion, because that's really what it's about. Yeah. This whole constitutional separation that says government can neither endorse nor prohibit private.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, the reason we use separation of church and state is because that was how the original.
Yeah. Well, that's Thomas Jefferson's own phrase that we've adopted, but still. But again, it's one of these things that allows folks like this. Jeff Deese said, when he was in Washington D.C. at the Godless Americans March last November, and he was telling some of these protesting Christians that Thomas Jefferson is one of the guys, who he wrote some quotes from Thomas Jefferson where Jefferson was critical of Christianity and Christian doctrine, of which Jefferson has many quotes like that. He actually heard this Christian say that Thomas Jefferson was burning in hell now. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's what you want to hear a Christian in Washington, D.C. saying. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson's burning in hell. Okay.
Jeez.
This is the American Taliban, gang. I mean,
these people have no scruples.
They're after power, and they will, clutch at it however they can. Yeah. And when it's denied them, they put on this martyr act like, oh, we're the horrible oppressed minority. Pity us, pity us.
Yep.
So, same crap they've been doing for decades and decades.
Yep.
So,
continuing today. Or at least continuing as of February 18th. Mm-hmm. So.
There's my drink way over there.
Okay, final story. This is the all-American story of the day. This is a man in Salt Lake City who his wife divorced him and went to, she became the second wife of a polygamist. So what is the American thing to do when something like that happens to your wife?
Sue their pants off.
You sue the church. A man who blames the leader of a polygamous church for his wife's decision to divorce him and become a second plural wife has failed in another attempt to pursue his alienation of affection claims.
Okay. Whatever.
In the alienation of affection lawsuit filed last October, Williams claimed his former wife was counseled by Jeffs and other elders of the church to leave their Colorado City, Arizona home and divorce him. A $20 million lawsuit had asked the church leaders to cease and desist from unlawfully influencing his children's beliefs also.
Wow.
So
here's a guy who wasn't a polygamist.
Exactly.
His wife
apparently
indoctrinated into the Mormon church, right? And left him to become some other guy's second wife.
Yep.
Dude, she's not worth it. If she's that stupid, let her go.
Well, I'm kind of ambiguous about that because I've read a lot about cults and what they can do with the proper.
I know there's all these mind control techniques that they employ, and
I mean, it really depends on what kind of marriage they had in the first place because maybe she was just going to leave him anyway.
Yeah, this is just
But we don't know
Right.
the facts.
Yeah.
These were the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That would
Joy.
be Mormons.
There's a scary one. Yeah, the Mormon Church.
Someday I have to bring the Mormon Guide to Self-Control
Yes.
to the show. And
That
read
is
it
always a
again.
good laugh.
Read it again. So that's maybe something to look forward to on a future episode. But my goodness.
Oh, dear. So, and that's it for news.
That's it?
That's it for news.
Well, here's a couple things. First off, as you all know, we have been doing viewer emails now for a little while. And it's turned into a pretty worthwhile feature. It's a good thing, for folks. This is a live call-in show, but even in a 90-minute running time, we never managed to get to everybody. So we've been taking viewer emails. However, the viewer email address has changed, and there's the new address at the bottom of the screen. Thanks to Russell for setting that up. It's tv@atheist-community.org. tv@atheist-community.org is the address for viewer emails. Write us, send us comments, and every week, I guess next week you'll do it. We'll pick the two most interesting, cool letters and read them out on the air and answer them. And this week, just kind of a light week. We just had one guy. His English wasn't his. I didn't do the printout before I came. Oh, sorry. But we had one guy who was saying, the more I hear all this religious proselytizing, the less sense it seems to make, and I think I'm becoming an atheist. So can I find out more about your group? And I said, well, good for you, and gave him website information and. So that's kind of neat. And then on the page, on the website today at the viewer email page, posted the other really great letter that we got, which is just this spectacular exercise in mind-boggling kookiness from a complete lunatic.
Oh, I'll have to see that.
And that's very, very entertaining. I was going to bring it to the show, but it's actually more entertaining if you read it yourself, I think.
Okay.
So,
In other words, it's very long.
no, it's not
what
very.
you're saying?
It's not very long. It's not very long, but it's it's just the. This is a letter from one of these guys who uses 8 exclamation points.
Oh, yeah.
So to read it yourself,
They're always
Does he
entertaining.
capitalize random letters in the middle of words?
don't think he does that,
Okay.
but he has lots of
words, I'm sure.
entire words capitalized.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is lots of fun. But anyway, tv@atheist-community.org, address for viewer emails. And Russell, before we go to you, talk to your thing. This isn't really a news item, but there's just a bit of amusement. Couple weeks ago, give or take, Pat Robertson went into the hospital for prostate cancer surgery. Had to get a little growth nipped out. And as much as we loathe the man, okay, we're not the kind of small-minded jokers who would make light of somebody coming down with cancer. Cancer's nasty, not a good thing. However, we're exactly the kind of small-minded jokers to make fun of this, okay? This is from the CBN.com website. This is Pat Robertson's home on the web. Pat has for some time been hawking this product that he calls Pat's age-defying protein pancake. And there he is in his little bib and apron cooking. You can't really... I can't see it. It's no good. Anyway, here's sales guilt-free pancakes. Yes, try Pat's age-defying protein pancakes for breakfast that fights disease, protects your heart, and tastes great. And then goes on. I like the voice. Yeah, you got to do the voice when you do this. But anyway, it's interesting here, and Arlo brought this to our attention.
Okay.
Is that this is what Pat's age-defying protein pancake mix is supposed to do for you. It's to combat the buildup of plaque in your blood vessels and arteries. Okay. Provide complex carbohydrates to keep your system running at its best. Provide an excellent source of energy and essential fatty acids important for good heart health. All right, not too bad. Last but not least, help protect against breast, uterine, and prostate cancer.
Amazing. How much would I pay for this? Wait, don't say. We can't be commercial.
Yeah. Now, far be it from me to belabor the obvious, but I think I feel a Homer Simpson moment coming on here. Everybody, oh! So, or maybe Pat just didn't eat any of his own pancakes. He should.
Yeah.
Oh well. But anyway.
Well, you can live on it, but it tastes like... Well,
Oh well. Or maybe he just didn't have enough of them. Who knows? Just eat them day and night, morning and evening, and then maybe.
Yes, we'll see him back next week. Say, double your dose.
Yuppers? Okay. Well, anyway, that was just for amusement purposes, and now it's over. Time for Russell. What up?
okay.
sir?
Well, I let's see. I guess the main reason I came on was because I haven't gotten to do any shows for a while.
And whose choice is that?
Actually, Jeff's, largely.
Oh, that's right, because you have been for nonprofits for so long and doing 2 in a row.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
2 shows in a weekend. Well, you're welcome back now because, there's no more nonprofits, at least for a while.
Yeah, well...
So you got no reason not to come down every Sunday.
Well, I do, actually. I have other commitments.
No pressure or anything.
Sundays.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Anyway, I was listening to the Bible Answer Man yesterday.
Okay, now who is this guy for the enlightenment of our less irrational viewers? Who would this guy be, and what's he all about?
Are you talking about the Bible Answer Man or Philip Johnson?
The Bible Answer Man.
The Bible Answer Man is on channel 97, radio station AM 970 at 6 p.m. And I don't mind giving him a free plug because he's just sometimes very entertaining.
Right, okay.
He's a weird kind of dichotomy of a guy because, on the one hand, I really like it when he talks about cults and stuff because he's just so good at knocking down all religions that aren't his. And he even talks about logical critical thinking from time to time, which makes it all the weirder when he seems to have this enormous blind spot where he just asserts stuff about his own religion and makes it and acts like a complete authority on everything.
Yeah. Doesn't apply the same critical thinking standards he thinks you should apply to other religions to his own.
Right. And I find this
the mark of a dogmatist.
Fascinating because, and plus I have to listen to something when I drive home from work every day.
Okay, Ginny, birthday, car CD player. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah.
That's what this was all about then.
There you go. Just introduce a little marital strife there, no problem. On you go. Yeah.
So how much do I owe you for that?
No financial transactions on the air. We're doing the parking lot. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, I especially wanted to hear this. Yes, let me see. It was Thursday and Friday because he was having Philip Johnson on. And I've long heard about Philip Johnson, but I've never actually heard him speak before. So let me tell you a little bit about Philip Johnson. Johnson is the mastermind behind the current twist in the creation science movement. Only they're not creation scientists anymore because those are now taboo words. The euphemism of the day is intelligent design.
Right.
And you probably heard about this if you follow the evolution debate at all. What he basically suggests is that you take out all reference to the Bible, take out all question of whether it was young Earth or old Earth, and just use these nice little safe words called where you say, well, there had to be some kind of intelligent designer, and I've got all these vague hand-waving proofs to show that things couldn't happen without design. And so we're just going to brush that little Bible thing under the door. In fact,
whatever you do, don't mention the G word.
Right. And in fact, on the air...
But does anyone not see through that ruse? I mean...
No, I mean, whenever you hear him talking to fellow Christians, he says things like he did yesterday, such as, I don't want to talk about Genesis because that makes people confused.
Essentially, what they're trying to do is just figure out how to skirt the law. If they start saying it's God of the Bible or something like that, then the ACLU could jump all over them. That's religion. But if they say something, well, then they're kind of, they found that loophole, a little skirt the law issue. They're like, hey, we're not actually touching it.
So the agenda here is, again, to get religion into school science curricula.
Yeah. Right. But Philip Johnson makes no bones at all about what he's after. He says, I want to bring everybody under the big tent of intelligent design, brush aside our differences, our teeny little differences for a while, and just get everybody to agree. And then when evolution crumbles in the lens of history, then of course everyone will come back to the correct 6-day creation.
Now, this is what is so bizarre about this whole thing. And before you get into it, just as an aside, let's say his little plan works, right? Let's say this whole little scheme that they have to sort of get people to stop saying the E word and think of it all as this kind of intelligent...
No, the E word is fine.
Yeah. But he wants to say, but he wants everybody to just stop thinking that it's evolution at all, get them to generally agree on some vague, ill-defined concept of intelligent design, and then when that's done and no one's mentioning Darwin anymore, or anybody else,
assuming that would ever happen.
Then they can iron out the kinks. But what they don't seem to realize is even if this whole scheme worked out, right? Okay, it would still be a case of a religious dogma attempting to smother actual evidence.
Right.
Okay. And eventually, what would happen is some years would pass, and you would get another young up-and-coming scientist, biologist, starting to challenge the accepted dogma and saying, "But I'm finding all this evidence," and evolution would just come right back.
Johnson doesn't see it this way. In fact,
of course he doesn't, because he thinks he's
of course. Well, he talks about an upcoming culture war, and this is where it gets really kind of icky. What Johnson says, in fact, Johnson will pretend to make all these concessions to real science. And he'll say that, in fact, if you a priori exclude supernaturalism from science, as scientists do with their methodological naturalism, then of course evolution will win. In fact, I agree that evolution is the best-looking hypothesis that completely ignores the hand of God in it. But
evolution.
So if we just start making stuff up, we can make up a better
evolution
idea.
is the best available scientific hypothesis that ignores a 7-foot-tall bunny rabbit named Gus. Who's invisible and wields magic powers. I mean, that's what he wants to say. That's what science is. They don't get. It is methodological naturalism. It deals with empirical examination of stuff. It doesn't deal with supernatural concepts.
Right.
What he wants to be able to do is just make stuff up.
What Johnson is saying is that if you would get rid of that a priori bias, then you would see that the evidence starts leading you toward a designer rather than evolution.
But it's not an a priori bias. It's what science is. Okay? That's like saying, that automobile manufacturing has some a priori bias against, flight. Well, it's just, they're not building planes. You're building cars. It's, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt your flow there, but...
It's idiocy.
What he's done, basically, is he's tried to appropriate the language of tolerance. He's said that they're all intolerant toward us because they won't let us explore the evidence for God, which is there and which is very good. Interestingly, I never hear him specifically talk about what that evidence is.
Yeah.
He just said,
you don't hear that.
you allowed some kind of supernaturalism in there, if you had an open mind and were allowed to look at all the evidence, supernatural or not, you would see how completely without legs evolution is.
Well, if you're allowed to just make up whatever you want, sure. Then, and not care what the facts are through scientific evidence, then okay. Other theories can suddenly start looking good to you. But that's not what science is. Science isn't about being tolerant. It's about being accurate.
Right, but what he's trying to do is reframe the debate from what it traditionally has been, where the evolutionary scientists who are actually studying the evidence and performing experiments and coming up with falsifiable predictions and silly stuff like that are now the closed-minded ones because they follow this procedure which rejects God. And we, the intelligent, open-minded creationists, just want a chance to have our evidence heard.
Then present that evidence.
As soon as God comes down to a laboratory and starts stomping around and affecting things, he is more than welcome to show himself.
Yeah. That's the thing. What drives them crazy is the fact that science can produce the fossil record, dating methods, embryological samples, genetics, all this evidence. Creationists cannot produce their creator. So as you said, what they want to do is reframe the whole debate to make it seem like we shouldn't have to produce our creator. It should just be enough that science has to be open-minded enough to accept the suggestion. And they're the bad guys for not doing that. We could just say, the invisible 7-foot-tall bunny rabbit named Gus living under my bed created the universe.
Yeah.
And science they're being closed-minded because they won't allow me to advance that theory.
Promote your evidence.
It's just... What's funny is that Philip Johnson says that he wants to unite believers, in this fight against atheistic science. But he spent a large portion of his presentation in the last few days talking about how theistic evolutionists are actually more dangerous than atheistic scientists, because of course, there's no possibility in his mind that evolution could actually be true.
Yeah, despite the fact it's all over the place. But,
despite
talk about open-mindedness.
He says that theistic evolutionists are a horribly dangerous threat to us because they make concessions to the evil evolutionists.
Or maybe they just look at evidence and say, yep, there's evidence there.
But, he's reframing this in much larger, scarier terms as this actual sort of Armageddon-like conflict where eventually it will come down to, he talks about the ethical and moral collapse of our whole society because of anybody accepting the idea that evolution might have happened.
And where does he get that from? That's really bizarre.
I don't know. Maybe you'll have to read his new book.
Yeah, thank you.
Or maybe not. He's pushing a new book. It's called The Right Questions, and I guess the right questions are the ones that sneak away from framing it as creationism and sneak into, let's get this whole methodological naturalism element out of science and go for anything. Who cares if it can be tested?
Yeah, it's all just, let's, because what they want is for
what
scientific
Philip
fans
Johnson
to be
wants
the result
is the
of
downfall of science, ultimately.
He wants to completely change science so that it's all about advance whatever theory you want, and then it gets to be the result of a popularity contest.
So I say, don't be fooled by this nice little touchy-feely, intelligent design kind of, we're not talking about a creator, we're not trying to introduce religion anywhere. This stuff is actually based in biblical stuff, and when they think that the rest of us aren't looking and they're talking to their fellow Christians, they talk about these huge conflicts where science as we know it is going to be destroyed.
But now this is what's weird though, is that they know that they have to be disingenuous in order to get this across. They know they have to be blatantly dishonest. Okay. So it's fascinating that they don't pull themselves up short at any point and say, I guess the thinking here is that any lie that you have to tell or any sort of dishonest behavior that you have to undergo.
You've read Paul.
In order to, this is Pauline, isn't it? This is this is a Pauline doctrine, is that any sort of lie that's told in the interest of furthering the Christian faith is a morally justified lie. So that would seem to be what that's all about. But it's fascinating that, they have to stoop to all these weird little, sneaky tactics in order to get their point of view heard when, all they'd have to do is present this incredible evidence for intelligent design that they claim exists, publish some papers in some peer-reviewed journals, and let the chips fall where they may. But that's what they don't want, right? They don't want the chips to fall where they may.
There has not been one scientific paper published in a journal that is promoting intelligent design. Because it can't stand up to the rigors of the scientific process. Now, of course, Johnson talks a lot about how the impending end of evolution is inevitable.
It's on its deathbed.
But again, even though he thinks that, right? If everyone stopped believing that evolution was the way it happened tomorrow, life forms would still evolve. Okay? And this is what's crazy. This is what's so dangerous about this point of view, right? Is that we know through things like antibiotic resistance to drugs. Okay, HIV specifically. This is evolution in action.
That's microevolution.
Still doesn't matter.
It didn't form into a deer, did it?
Anyway, I take it this is a common theme within the creationist movement. The sort of what have you got there?
So it's all.
I'm trying to do a nice segue for you, and you're not picking up on it.
Okay, start over. We're fine. We still got lots of time. But that's. But it's. Irony is never far from religion, right? I was working. I was on a TV commercial crew this week, and as I was driving to set, I passed this church, and it's one of these churches with a big marquee out front. And it said,
"Those are always fun."
But this one, I do double take because this one said, truth is not determined by how many people believe it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what we've been saying this whole okay, fine. So you're admitting that it's all BS, but come on in anyway. Go to church. Yeah. Crazy. So anyway, it's and I just want to let our callers know, right? We're not biologists on the show. We're not scientists. We take an interest in this topic because it comes up, right? But this is an atheist show. It's not a science show. And if you want to find out information about, what science has to say about how evolution really works, and not just the creationist distortions of what the science has to say, and some of the refutations of these creationist claims, there's a tremendous online resource right there at the bottom of your screen, talkorigins.org.
Woohoo, great site.
Yeah, and speaking of tolerance, right, speaking of open-mindedness, right, talkorigins.org has lengthy facts and lengthy essays, giving the scientific facts. They'll put up links to rebuttals by creationists, and then there will be links to the rebuttals and what have you, and so on and so forth, right? You will not find on any creationist website that I know of, maybe you've seen some, maybe there's...
I would hesitate to say
maybe not any, but it is...
Think of one
it's very infrequent.
Yeah, I know that some of the essay writers who have papers up on talkorigins.org have said, this particular creationist website, they critiqued us, we've put a link to their critique and we've responded to it. They haven't put a link up on their site coming back to us.
By the way, I'm planning to write a series of articles in the Atheist newsletter about how to argue. And this is going to address issues like being honest and pointing out your sources and letting people read the original form of what you're responding to.
Yeah.
So look for that in future issues.
Yay, right on.
Anyway, do we want to talk more about this book, or do we want to
talk about this?
Go to a caller and then...
Sure.
We have 2 callers lined up. Why don't we take...
At least one.
No, because if we start taking callers... no. Folks, we'll go ahead and get to you in a couple minutes. Hang loose. But if we start taking callers, then we're never going to get to that.
Yeah.
But be really quick with that. 2 or 3 minutes.
I will do it again.
Okay.
This is a book that I just got a couple days ago. I got it yesterday.
Okay.
Now don't bother zooming in on it.
This is typical creationist literature, right?
Yes, this is just pure claptrap.
Yeah.
It's called The Collapse of Evolution, and it's by Scott Hughes. Now, I just got this yesterday, and I decided to read over the introduction and see what kind of things they've gotten here.
Yeah.
Now, let's just point out just some of the sentences I found in this introduction.
Okay.
First one, the fatal flaw in this argument being the just evolution has been, is a proven scientific fact. It's been presented that evolution is a fact. The fatal flaw in this argument, however, is the fact that it is impossible to prove scientifically any theory of origins. This is because the very essence of the scientific method is based on observation and experimentation, and it is impossible to make observations or conduct experiments on the origin of the universe.
So this guy doesn't believe in electrons either, right?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can't observe them directly, and so, yeah, they don't exist.
But again, that's false because he's not understanding the whole concept of post-diction, which instead of prediction, and a lot of science is done this way. Steven Weinberg won a Nobel Prize doing this kind of thing, which is that, for example, take something like the Big Bang theory.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Big Bang is a theory that has implications, and what that means is that when you theorize something like the Big Bang, what you're saying as a scientist is, if this were the way the universe came about, you would expect to see the following conditions, A, B, C, D, E, present today as indications of this past event. Okay. Yeah. And in our exploration of the universe, we are finding these conditions present.
Yes.
Okay. So that's how that works out.
So yes, we can't observe or repeat the Big Bang, but we could say that there's a really, really, really good chance that it actually did happen.
Yeah.
So
he's not understanding that that's a way in which, these kinds of scientific experiments are quite often done.
Yeah. But since evolution, according to this, isn't really scientific, it's just, kind of made up stuff, belief in the theory of evolution is thus exactly parallel to belief in special creation. Both are concepts which...
Man.
Shaw.
Good Lord.
Both are concepts which believers know to be true, but neither, up to the present, has been capable of proof.
Yeah. Speak for yourself, dude. Again, whole website there, talkorigins.org, that will smash every claim that this guy makes to that effect.
Yeah. Right. What else? Thus, the evolution can only be correctly labeled as a belief, a subjective philosophy of origins, the religion of many scientists.
Okay, this is what I want to know about this. How in the hell do these idiots who pontificate on a subject about which they know nothing get a religion out of evolutionary biology? Okay,
well,
there's no temples, right? Their evolution has no dogmas that cannot be challenged by evidence, not just by people wringing their hands and saying, what about my invisible friend, but actual evidence. Evolution is no different than any other scientific field.
Yep. Are you sure he knows nothing about it? Doesn't he have some kind of scientific credentials?
I have not found a single thing, no.
But before you look at that up, I want to know how these guys get a religion out of evolution, okay? Because there's no, worship practice. You don't have guys going to the lab going, that evolution doesn't make any moral judgments. It doesn't set up, any sort of philosophy about how to live your life and codes of behavior and what have you.
Oh, that's only because you don't know the right.
There's no worship. There's no spiritual leader. There's nothing about it that's religious. The reason he says that, right, is because this is an easy way to pander to similarly ignorant people who only think of things in life in terms of one belief system, one religion versus another religion, and ours is better, so go with ours.
Yeah.
This is all about turn truth into a popularity contest, and don't worry about what the evidence has to say.
Yeah.
Shut your eyes to the evidence, first off, and then, mischaracterize what things are.
Yep. Also, many scientists and teachers are unbelievers in biblical Christianity. As such, they are forced to accept a naturalistic explanation for the origin and destiny of life and the universe. Thus, we find that evolution is generally accepted to be a fact of science, not because it can be proven by scientific evidence, bollocks again, but because the only alternative, bollocks, is special creation, is totally unacceptable.
This ignores the vast number of theistic evolutionists out there who, of course, according to Philip Johnson, are the most evil people in the world.
And according to this guy,
and according to this guy too, he goes into exactly why that is.
Yeah. But again, this is like a one-man festival of fallacies, right? I mean, he's got the false dilemma, right?
Yes.
Just like Philip Johnson has.
It's either evolution or creation. That's the only possible explanation.
And it's either creation or a complete world of moral anarchy and insanity where nothing means anything.
Exactly.
That's what it's this weird false dilemma. Again.
Yeah, he keeps referring to scientists as atheistic evolutionists. You can't possibly be a theist and believe in evolution.
Well,
something like that.
Okay, I'm an atheist and I don't have a problem with it.
On it.
But I'll believe in God when clowns like him show me the evidence.
Yeah.
Okay? I will accept things supported by evidence, and that's just a general rule of life for me.
And he does talk about the theistic evolution, which is basically the belief that we did evolve, but it was directed by the hand of God, or God, had some play in that.
Yeah.
And he refers to that as the unholy alliance.
Okay, but now this guy here is a literal
love the language.
He's a literalist. He's a biblical literalist, right? And he's
biblical moron.
And he's a young Earth creationist, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, he's one of these guys that it was literally 6 24-hour days.
Exactly.
In which this all took place.
6,000 years ago.
Which is completely insupportable.
Yeah.
But, he makes these...
Even by the Bible, it's not that well grounded.
Yeah. But he makes these just bizarre speculative ramblings.
Yeah.
That would sound good to uneducated adults, I suppose. I notice how many Post-it notes you have in that book.
Just the sheer number of these things.
Pointing out all of the falsehoods.
The lunacy. Again, he goes on. Simply stated, the theory of biological evolution asserts that non-living matter somehow gave rise to simple living organisms that subsequently reproduced and diversified, generating all life forms. According to this belief, all bacteria, plants, blah, 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 have arisen by mere chance from a single remote ancestor.
See, there you go. What
blah,
a total
blah,
idiot.
blah.
He doesn't know his subject, right?
Yeah.
Chance is not what natural selection is all about. Okay, chance may play a part in what particular mutations take place at the genetic level, but what natural selection is about
is what happens after the thing is born.
Well, it's the mutations that favor the organism, that are favorable towards the organism's survival, versus those mutations that are unfavorable towards the organism's survival.
Yeah.
Obviously, the organisms that have favorable mutations are the ones that will go on and have subsequent generations. The ones that don't will die out.
Yeah.
So that's hardly chance. Okay, that's a selecting for favored traits.
Yeah.
Because the traits are the ones that work and contribute to survival and health. Yeah.
And the line in here that simply has to be said, just because it is the most oversimplified piece of garbage I've ever heard in my life. The basic premise of this molecule-to-man theory is that hydrogen gas, given enough time, will eventually turn into people.
Well, I mean,
what kind of moron can
nonsense.
actually say that with a straight face?
That's the variation
That's not what evolution says.
Exactly.
It doesn't say that if you ran the whole thing, then you'd always get people.
Yeah, and that's the same flaw. But that's Kent Hovind's frogs plus time equals Prince argument.
Yes.
Which I think there's no guarantees. I mean, they're because they're Christians and they think that the universe was all put here for us.
Right. Predestination.
Yeah, they think that like evolution is this thing that if it works, it ought to have
always going to produce people.
There's this end result that evolution is something that has a plan and there is a purposeful result at the end of it. Well, it's not. It's
evolution is a competing god to them.
Yeah.
Which it's not.
Yeah. So that just shows what a thorough lack of understanding and education all of these arguments are rooted in. And it's a shame because this can have really, really seriously damaging effects to our culture in terms of the fact that, now I'm bringing up the whole culture war thing, but really but what I mean though is that America is already, like among civilized nations, right, that we're at the bottom already in terms of, scientific literacy.
Close to it.
A substantial portion of American adults don't know that a year is the time it takes the Earth to go around the sun one time. They don't know that that's what a year is. Yeah. Okay. So, and countries around the world that aren't our pals, like Korea, okay, and, their science and math education, they're up in like the top 4 or 5. Yeah. We're in like the bottom 20.
Right.
Very bad situation that can happen. America, the more this kind of wacky superstition is at war with science and actually gaining ground in this war on science, in America, this country's on its way to becoming an intellectual third world country.
Yeah,
and
but
we're not
with more nukes than anyone else.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, that's safe.
And so all of the knowledge in the know, we're going to have to go overseas to get our science, our medicine. Yeah. The stuff that we take for granted today, because we're just not graduating the people who know anything about the subject. Yeah. Yep. If guys like Johnson and this nitwit, Hughes.
And again, talking about the moral downfall and everything, he goes into that, saying that we need to know our origin.
Right. Well, that's enough time on that crap.
Yeah, I have one more thing to say, but I think I'll save it for later.
Okay, because Gary, our callers have been waiting a long time. We appreciate it. Thank you, but it is time to go ahead and. Anyway, it's always fun to just sort of grouse about stupid people. Oh, well. Gary, you're on the air.
Yes, ma'am. Hey.
Thanks for waiting.
Hey, I love watching you guys, man. I agree with a lot of things you say. I just wanted to ask you, do you believe in something higher that puts you here? I mean, I know y'all talk about science.
Well, what do you mean by believe in? What do you mean by something higher? I mean, and I'll tell you.
A combination of things have put us here. I mean, I'm not talking about a God. I'm just saying maybe something put us here.
Okay. I have to say that I am in awe of the fact that natural processes led to all of this. I think that is stupendous. It shows me that the universe is far more vast and complex and fascinating in the way it actually works than anything that people who tried to promote some sort of supernaturalism have thought up to date.
What I'm in awe of is not just the fact that these processes have led to everything that we see, but that the processes themselves are understandable in principle. Yeah. That we can study these things and understand how they work and not ever have to resort to, that works in mysterious ways.
Right.
So, and even now with the things that we don't understand through science, and there are plenty of those. At least we're working on it.
Yeah.
And it's all, and the fact that it's this never-ending examination and exploration and study, this process that keeps going, the process of learning being an ongoing process.
We know a lot more today than we did 50 years ago. We'll know a heck of a lot more in 50 years than we know today.
Yeah. Right. I believe that religion is something that we've invented to kind of explain why we're here. I'm not into religion at all, but I do believe that there's some kind of whatever it is, whether we were a petri dish made by a teenager from another planet, whatever reason, that there is some reason that we're progressing and that we have the intelligence, and there are food chains, and there is a chain of events that are happening, and we were given a law term, we call the Ten Commandments in the Bible, that runs around the rampant. I don't know, man has messed it up by throwing religion into it, but it was a way so that we don't kill ourselves off.
Well,
but we hadn't killed ourselves off in the years and years before that either.
Yeah, I mean, there were civilizations prior to our own, and many pre-Christian cultures and traditions. But you're right, though. I mean, in a sense, okay, you're right. In pre-scientific cultures, you're right. Religion was created for a couple of reasons. First off, it became like the governing body in a particular culture, and it was also this thing that came about in the interests of trying to explain everything that went on, right? Of just this trying to explain the world around us. That was what, the original priesthoods of civilizations in Mesopotamia and Egypt and the Fertile Crescent and everywhere, that's what they were up to, indeed. Okay, in terms of, that's why they created these belief systems. But, in subsequent years, as, again, human beings learn more and more about the world around them, religious explanations for why things are have been gradually supplanted by scientific, naturalistic explanations. And in every case, the religious explanation has gone down kicking and screaming. Okay, because the religion itself, at that point, has become now this massive power base with a lot of people who are, who like having that influence and power.
Look where we're at now. Even the people like Philip Johnson, who are openly pushing an agenda of defeating naturalism and putting in some kind of theocracy in its place, are forced to sneak around in dark corridors and install monuments in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, we're not really talking about the Bible, but really we are."
Yeah. But the current battles that are going on right now between evolution and creationism are no different than what was going on 400 or 500 years ago with the whole heliocentric model of the solar system, the Earth going around the sun instead of vice versa. And, Galileo being imprisoned, Giordano Bruno being burned at the stake for daring to insinuate that all those other stars in the sky are, and maybe actual suns just like our own, which, of course, we now know to be a fact, but back then, that notion terrified the church so much that they killed him for it. So, unfortunately, the church can't, Philip Johnson can't go around burning, evolutionists, scientists at the stake, but it's the same mentality. It's this fear that a long-cherished, precious dogma, essentially, is being threatened. And when that's all that person has in his life to give it any sort of level of understanding, you're basically saying, take away my belief system, you've taken away everything that, and they don't see that...
and that creates a big fear.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're essentially taking away everything that they think life is all about.
Right.
So
when you ask about whether we believe in a higher power, I think...
I don't want to say higher power like a godly
something
thing, but
higher. I believe that abstract concepts have power. Things like knowledge and integrity, and things which are cool concepts that were discovered at one point and have been shaping influences in our culture. I think
emotions, just alone, emotions. Sure. As you pass those on, there has to be something or maybe I'm grasping for it.
I think the fact that we are so driven by emotion, a combination of emotions and reasons, has a lot to do with why we've gone so far up the food chain.
Well, we're very inquisitive, as a species. I mean, we're so inquisitive. You don't have other type of species being as inquisitive, and we're at the top of that. And of course, we are the virus. But the smarter we get, the worse things get.
Well, that's Agent Smith talking. Humans are a virus.
Matrix stuff.
Yeah. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that there are things about the cultures that human beings have created to surround themselves with that have had a virus-like effect.
Right.
I would suggest that religion is probably one of them. This whole idea that there are these dogmatic ideas handed to you from centuries past that cannot be questioned for any reason is not something that I think is contrary to what the creationists are saying, all about being open-minded and fair. This is all about shutting down scientific inquiry.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's ultimately what guys like Philip Johnson and the other intelligent design advocates want. Don't ask any more questions. Just read the Bible, accept what's in the Bible, and take it at face value.
Right. And you're actually committing a sin if you step beyond those boundaries. I asked a
then
friend
you're an
of
evil,
mine,
godless sinner, and deserve to go to hell for eternity.
Well, I have a friend who's very religious, and I talked to him. I asked him. I said, "All right, when was sin committed?" And they go back to the Adam and Eve, and the deep thoughts and the bad thoughts, and Eve talked, with the apple and all that. But I said, why did the devil descend? Well, it had to start. It started way before then. If the devil didn't like working for his boss. Something was going on about, and he can't answer that question. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it's true. Why did the devil get upset if everything's great up there in heaven and everything's perfect?
Yeah. And
why did he have to step down?
And here's another thing you can point out to them that will drive them absolutely crazy.
Right, I love doing that.
Is that God is supposed to be all-knowing, right?
Right.
Past, present, and future.
Right.
So he knew ahead of time that Satan was going to tempt Eve, and that Eve was going to eat of the apple, and that there was going to be this great fall of man.
Right.
He knew that all of this disastrous
stuff. Kill them all with a flood.
Disastrous, sin was going to mar his perfect creation before he did any of it, and yet he still went ahead and did it.
Right.
So what does that say? That points to definite complicity on God's part in this whole fall of man. It wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened if he didn't want it to happen. If he knew about it in advance and could have prevented it and chose not to.
Right.
If he didn't know about it, he's not all-powerful and all-knowing.
So bring that up next time and just watch their steam come out of their ears. It's great.
Hey, it was great talking to you guys. Thank you.
Well, thanks for watching, and you take care, okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, and remind all of our unbelievers in the gang, in the audience, don't forget our website, atheistmedia.org, and bagel shop meetings for atheists and agnostics and what have you. And who's next? Rochelle has been waiting incredibly patiently. Thank you so much, and then we'll find out who the next caller is.
We don't know who's on line 3, by the way.
Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Martin.
Hey.
How you doing?
Oh, hey, Michelle.
Good discussion.
Thank you. We're still getting misspelled names from the control room. So let's do it. It's spell the name out for Tyler, Steve. Thanks. Anyway, and everyone, Chris doing a great job, but I always have to. I hate.
Don't pick on him. He might not come back.
I'm not picking on him, but it's really embarrassing when you go, "Hi, Mary." Oh, Fred. Okay. So you've never done that, dude. I know. What's up, Michelle?
I just want to say we do have a speaker. March
okay.
2nd.
Oh, good. Why, thank you.
In honor of
Take that down.
Texas Independence Day, Don Lawrence is going to talk about the Texas freethinkers.
Okay.
And I think that'll start about 12:30. We'll start a little bit later than we did last time.
That's fine. Don Lawrence about Texas Independence Day.
Well, yeah, about the freethinkers in Texas history.
All right.
And
can I just replace the thing that says TBA on the website?
Yeah, well, I talked to Don, but I've been lax in sending out an email to the membership, so I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
And I guess some people are meeting for breakfast ahead of time. So.
Okay. And I suppose it would be incredibly naive to ask if we've lined up anyone for April.
Yeah, no, we do actually. March was my weak spot.
Okay, let's get all this down.
Yeah. Well, don't get it all down yet. I think it's.
Okay, email that to us.
Yeah, I'll email it out. But I do have speakers lined up for April and May.
Well, lovely. Cool. Thank you so much.
So,
Michelle is our fine co-chair who does such a great job with our. All right. Anything else?
That's about it.
That's about it. All right. Well, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Can I do my last little shtick before we go to
do your thing.
The next caller? I was pointing out earlier that there's sort of a desperate note about the creationists' continued insistence that evolution is really on its last legs.
Oh yeah,
it's almost dead, seriously. And of course, they've been saying that since the day that Darwin published.
Of course, there's no indication at all that evolution is losing any ground among actual scientists.
Right, and
but they keep
from
trying
time to time, you'll see they compile on creationist websites. You'll see a list of a few dozen scientists with various credentials. A lot of BSs and BAs, a lot of non-biology type
mostly
degrees.
So it's non-biologists with bachelor degrees.
A scattered few real biologists who have their own issues.
Right.
But, again, several dozen of various kinds of scientists. And in order to combat that, we got the National Center for Science Education came up with their own little humorous project.
Yeah.
It's called Project Steve. And what Project Steve is basically a petition that they sent out to only very well-esteemed scientists with very important relevant degrees.
Yeah.
And the statement is this: evolution is a vital, well-supported, unifying principle of the biological sciences, and the scientific evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of the idea that all living things share a common ancestry. Although there are legitimate debates about the patterns and processes of evolution, there is no serious scientific doubt that evolution occurred or that natural selection is a major mechanism in its occurrence. It is scientifically inappropriate and pedagogically irresponsible for creationist pseudoscience, including but not limited to intelligent design, to be introduced into the science curricula of our nation's public schools. So they got about 250 people to sign this, and they're all named Steve.
So only scientists with the name of Steve.
Because, of course, this is a parody of the common creationist tactic of thinking that, scientific facts can just be determined by getting a bunch of guys to sign a petition and saying, we think this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
but compare several dozen scientists on the, so I use the word scientist loosely, but several dozen
people in white lab coats.
People on the creationist side who say, look at all these people who agree with us that creationism is right. And on the other hand, we have 250 highly respected real scientists, all named Steve.
We only took the Steves.
Who say no, intelligent design and creationism are both complete bunk. And the reason that they did this, why they restricted it to Steve's, was they figured, well, according to our studies, people named people who would qualify on our list, and that includes Steve, Stephen, Stefan, and Stephanie, represent about 1% of the population at large. So if we get 250 Steves to sign, then that means that about 25,000 people, at least, would agree with this thing.
who are actual scientists.
Who are actual scientists, yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to find...
and two of these Steves...
Two of these Steves are Nobel laureates. In fact, they're all the Steve Nobel laureates in the world.
Yeah. Wow.
Stephen Weinberg and Stephen Chu have both signed on.
Find me
to
the
this.
creationist Nobel laureates, and I'll be impressed.
So anyway,
if you
I've
get
got
some
these
computer science major with a bachelor's writing some book on biology, which is not his field, something you're not gonna you're trying to debunk evolutionary biology, you're not gonna make too much of an impression.
I've got these two websites for you to check out. Equip.org is the Bible Answer Man's website, and you can hear for yourself.
Equip.org.
Yes.
He's going to equip you with all the ignorance that you can possibly slog through life with.
So you can go there if you're a real glutton for punishment and listen to Philip Johnson live. And then ncseweb.org is where you will, if you look over on the right, this is the big site for the National Center for Scientific Education. And if you look on the right side of their webpage, then you'll see a link. You'll see a link to Project Steve, where you can see for yourself all the well-established Steves who agree with evolution.
That was just really funny. I mean, it's just parody at a certain point. Just to get their goats is all kinds of fun. Anyway, all right. Well, now it's time to talk to Bill and see what he has to say. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, hello.
Yeah. Bill. Hi. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, you guys were talking about how religion can stunt growth intellectually. I'm also atheist, but I do have some other questions that I'm uncertain of. Can it stunt growth intellectually if it's introspective, or sort of like Eastern religion, but it's not organized religion?
Let me go on the record as saying I think Eastern religion is kind of cool.
Yeah, but still, the supernatural concepts are no more proven than any of the Western religions. Personal philosophies and self-examination is a whole different bugbear than trying to examine the natural world around us using empirical methods and what have you. It's philosophy and science are two different subjects essentially. And I know that in the early days, like natural science was referred to as natural philosophy and what have you. But this was back when it was all developing. So, but this is exactly why science doesn't deal with like questions of the supernatural and various philosophical theories about the purpose of life. Is it this, that, or the other thing? Because that just doesn't really fall under any sort of naturalistic rubric, right? It's not that that is what philosophy is about, and science doesn't cover those topics. So, if someone wants to adopt some sort of religious belief that for the purposes of this kind of interpersonal examination, and that's what it's for to them, well, fine, that's their choice, and all well and good. But then, if they want to suddenly take it out of that realm and say, okay, now my religious beliefs are not only scientifically valid, but they're better than the currently available science, but I don't have to provide evidence for it because I want science to redefine itself to say we don't need to find evidence for things anymore. We can just be open-minded. Now they're opening themselves up for all this criticism, and justifiably so.
Let me try to put it this way briefly. I think that what can be harmful about religion is when you take any one source, or be it a book or a person or a group of people, and say, well, we know that whatever issues forth from this person or book is true, and we don't have any need to investigate it further. I think that that all the danger that potentially comes from religion comes from that concept, and I recognize that not all things that are called religions actually do that, and so to that extent, I think they're harmless.
Okay.
But going back to what you had originally said, being Eastern religions, introspection, meditation, that type of thing, the extras, supernatural stuff that can go along with that, I don't find there's any truth to any of that. I wouldn't expect. However,
you should remain skeptic until something that is uncertain is certain or becomes a reality.
Right.
Of course.
Being skeptical about something doesn't mean you oppose it. It just means that you've decided not to fall for it whole hog.
Yeah. Now, a lot of those religions or philosophies and stuff, they have you doing things with your mind essentially that most people don't do. A lot of introspection, meditation. I've seen a lot of studies on out-of-body experiences, stuff like that. That doesn't make it any less neat to figure out how your mind works and learn how to control it in a way that you can disassociate yourself from your senses or something like that. I mean, that's really neat.
Yeah, but
just be careful.
Put something into yourself, so put something in, invest so much time in something that may not exist.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
right. That's
and the point of it is that doing that kind of stuff, if I can learn how to have out-of-body experiences, that's pretty neat. It's just you have to be careful to realize that what you're doing is messing with your mind's senses. Yeah. Now that could be neat, but it doesn't let you it doesn't give you insight into the real world.
And even worse,
real.
If you're not doing it yourself and somebody is doing it to you, then you're really trusting that person's integrity not to screw with what is in your mind.
Exactly. It's just like all entertainment these days. I can go to the movies and have a great time watching a movie, but I know it's a movie. I don't have to, my God, that was real, to enjoy it. It's a movie.
But I want to address what you just brought up about, it's all, some of the, the meditative or metaphysical practices of these religions being neat, as it were. Okay, that's as may be, but I'm sure that, tripping on heroin could be neat.
True.
And it's all depends on, is this really the measure of whether or not something becomes just a good idea to do in the first place. And the danger there is that a lot of people can just slip so far into wanting to have these experiences all the time that you do get this disconnect from reality. And when you have that, then you have people who I think will not make good, wise decisions. So there is a risk there. And I also challenge the idea that having these kinds of belief systems, is just necessary, is a priori necessary to have, any sort of meaning. A lot of people claim that, or religion in general likes to claim that it's just this thing that everyone needs, because without it, there are just certain experiences in life that you're missing out on of an emotionally fulfilling nature and what have you, and so on and so forth. And I would challenge that. I think that, what can be emotionally fulfilling about your own life and your own experience is based upon the decisions you make and what have you. And to live a secular lifestyle does not instantly deprive you of the ability to experience any sort of awe or wonder or neatness, so to speak. I mean, as I stated to an earlier caller, I am just stunned by, every time, and I'm a scientific layman, I have no degrees in it, but when I read, these books for the general public that explain to me, or try to, what quantum mechanics is all about, and how organisms really do function biologically, and how one thing gets to another, I'm just amazed by all of this sort of thing. And I just think to myself, if so many of the people who attack this really knew, what you can find out by studying it, I think that's missing out.
So it's good. It's almost to search for knowledge and not so much belief.
Yeah. I get my sense of meaning and fulfillment out of life through that search for knowledge, as opposed to just filling in gaps in my knowledge with beliefs.
I find it's more exciting to really understand something than to just come up with something that sounds nice.
And there's no shame in admitting, hey, being confronted with a question or a mystery and saying, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, then it could be that growth intellectually is stunted because of introspective religion.
Well,
knowledge, it seems.
As Russell stated earlier, if you don't know, or Ashley, whichever one of you, knowing where to draw that distinction between, okay, here's what my personal philosophy says about my own emotional state and what have you, and then here is what I know about the actual world around us. Through, some people, that's when the distinction becomes blurred, I think, is where the danger happens.
If you spend too much time, messing with your brain chemistry and not enough time actually learning stuff, that can be bad.
Yeah, you're shrooming all the time. But so hopefully, hopefully we answered your question. Anything else?
Yeah. Also, where can I get one of those mugs?
These.
Well, actually, I don't think we can.
We can't plug our products on the air, but they're.
If you come to our meetings, we can talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you are. But hey, thanks a lot for your call, and call us back anytime. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, Jim, I'm told, is next. So here we go. Hi, you're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hello.
Whoops.
I enjoy your show very much. I've been watching it the last few Sundays. It's a very interesting, good discussion.
Well, thank you.
I would like to ask, I am a Christian, and I would like to ask, one thing I've never really understood about the evolution versus creation argument is, how does evolution, or science, disprove God?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Evolution and science has
unison.
Yeah, science has nothing to say on the subject of God at all. And here's why. Okay. As explained to the last caller, science is a process about it is an empirical process. It's about drawing conclusions concerning the natural world that we experience through things like experimentation and observation, right? Now let's take an example. Let's say you have two beakers full of different colored waters, right? And you mix them together 19 times.
Right.
And you get the same color each time from the mix. Then you could predict, scientifically, 20th time we mix it, we're going to get the same color. That's a prediction that you can make through your experimentation. But now the minute you introduce into this process the idea of some invisible magic being who has no limits to his power and can do anything at all through any sort of a divine act of will, well, you throw all that out the window. Even though you've gotten 19 mixtures of the same color through your previous experiments, if there is some sort of inscrutable magic being controlling everything, who's to say that 20th time, just on whim, you'll get he'll do a command and you'll get a completely different color. So there's no real way so this is why science ignores God or gods, okay? Because nothing really can be predicted when you introduce all of these untestable, supernatural, strange elements into what is an empirical process that we can test and that we can observe and that we can work with.
Right, but science doesn't prove that a God doesn't exist, and in fact, the majority of practicing scientists, just like the majority of people in the world in general, are theistic. Now, there are fewer, the proportions are a little lower among scientists, but, it's still well over 50% of scientists who still believe in a God of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I guess I can understand that, because a lot of, at least my listening, what I've been hearing is a lot of, that since this is scientific, therefore God does not exist, and that's what I've been hearing.
Well, what we've been talking about for a lot of today is a small band of, individual, a small group of religious people who call themselves creationists or intelligent design proponents, who are, they're the ones who believe that if evolution was true, then it would have to prove that there's no God. And so, they've dedicated themselves to fighting this concept, this well-supported scientific concept, and said if that ever turns out to be true, then we're totally screwed.
Yeah, that's where you hear this claim.
And we don't
coming
believe
from.
that. We think that's silly.
Yeah. It's where you hear the claim coming from that accepting scientific evidence for evolution means that you have to relinquish your religious beliefs. It's the people in the creationist movement are the ones making that claim.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. You don't hear scientists saying that. Now, granted, now we don't believe in God here on this show, obviously, but the reason that for example, someone like Richard Dawkins, who is one of the world's leading evolutionary scientists, he said in one of his books, he said that evolution does make it possible to be fulfilled intellectually as an atheist. What he simply means by that is that a lot of the design arguments are, a lot of so you said in the fact that the force is taken out of a lot of supernatural design arguments for life when you examine the available evidence of evolution.
Right, because the magic finger is no longer required to explain the the existence of life on Earth.
But that
doesn't mean that it's
but that doesn't but that's not the same thing as saying, okay, in order to accept what science has to say about the world, you have to completely vanquish all religious belief from the land, which is the propaganda line that guys like Philip Johnson are putting out. But these guys have an agenda, okay, and it has to do with sneaking religious faith into the public schools through the guise of science. And I think it has to do ultimately with theocratizing the American government, which is, of course, what we don't want, because because you can only have true religious freedom in a secular society where your religious beliefs are none of the government's business.
Well, believe it or not, I'm in complete agreement with you there.
I believe
that scares me just almost as much.
Yeah. No, I believe you because I think that most Christians, again, don't necessarily represent the views of this small group of theocratic fundamentalists who are obsessed with, who equate their religious beliefs with power and want to conflate the two. Yeah. I think that most people are have a live and let live attitude towards their beliefs and vis-a-vis other people, and especially they don't want the government sticking their nose in their beliefs.
I agree.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, my cordless phone is beeping. I would love to ask you some more questions, but I'm afraid I'm going to get cut off.
Steve, put that email address.
Yeah.
I see that. I get kind of. One last thing I'd like to ask, if you get a chance to comment on those.
Sure.
What?
I think he got cut off, so that's going to have to. You're going to have to email us that one last thing. But there it is.
Sorry.
TV at atheist-community.org, and we appreciate your call, Jim.
And I think it's also important to point out that science cannot disprove God. We can get it down to a point where all the other theories are much, much, much better ideas.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of God is, really, really small.
But this gets us now back to burden of proof.
Technically, you cannot say there is no God. It's impossible to prove that God is not hiding out in a bog in Missouri.
Well, yeah.
So,
our very own Paul Wilson has an interesting argument that he has mounted for the impossibility of God. Maybe we'll get him on the show to defend that. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But that gets back to the burden of proof question. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because people are constantly asking us, well, you guys can't prove God doesn't exist, and we point out to them, it's not our job. Okay, all we're saying is that we don't believe you when you say that that there's this God and we should worship him just like you do. Okay, whoever's making the positive claim is the person who bears the burden of proof. And to say I don't believe something exists can't be called a positive claim, no matter how you want to twist the English language around. I mean, I can't prove that the planet Neptune is not inhabited by, Gus the Flying Magic Bunny Rabbit and all his pals. Okay? But does that make it rational to believe...
You really like that bunny rabbit example.
Well, you're sick of the invisible magic elf in my head. It's time for the magic bunny rabbit.
Can't you mix it up a little bit?
That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. Gus the rabbit and the invisible magic elves, and they're all partying on Neptune, and I can't prove it's not happening. But
with the ice cream factory.
That's it, yeah. But it doesn't make it rational to believe that they are up there on Neptune partying around simply because I can't prove they aren't. Same thing. So, all right. Next time it'll be Myrtle the unicorn and whatever. I'll put my thinking cap on. I'll come up with all these little mythical creatures, and I'll chop and change each week, and we'll have fun. All right.
There's a new reason to watch the show.
Yeah. So
it'll be like The Simpsons, where he writes a new thing on the board every week.
Yeah, exactly. So that means you'll have to collect all the episodes on the DVD box set of the Atheist Experience. All right. Okay, John is on line 1, been holding patiently.
This is the last caller we have lined up.
Yes, and this is it. John, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hey, no problem, Martin. You guys?
Hey, what's going on?
John.
Congratulations for keeping the show going.
Well, thank you very much.
Fun to tune into it. I have a question for you about, I guess, doing what you're doing on a larger scale and what the prospects are. I've been thinking about kind of where culture has gone. I don't know. I guess since I've been aware, and I've kind of got my rationalist perspective like you guys, and looking at, I guess, where our leadership has been taking us the last few years. And it seems like it'd be a really great time to try to promote some, I guess, large audience sort of debate, some sort of old-time, Clarence Darrow, William Jennings Bryan sort of thing. And, I guess the subject would be maybe rationalism versus religion. And I'm curious what you guys think about that. First of all, like some of the ideas of what we might try to accomplish, who might be the actors, and if it could be done. I've been thinking about the fact that there's Ted Turner out there who's no big fan of Christianity. Got a lot of money, got a lot of good connections to media.
Yeah, but he's putting it all into these 20-hour-long Civil War movies.
Right,
so we can't get any of his money probably. But I know what you mean.
Have you seen Fox News? I mean.
Oh yeah, well sure, it's all.
But yeah, I think it would be awesome to be on after Oprah.
I just heard something on Fox News. They were amusingly waxing indignant about it and being mocking it and everything. That apparently there is
left-wing radio. Is that?
Yeah, that's it. The liberal talk radio trying to get a grip. And, I disdain this whole sort of, I like to think of myself as independent, maybe moderate in many ways. I don't ally myself either left or right. In fact, our mailing list, I've certainly pissed off some of the extreme lefties on our group with some things I've said now and again. But, I politically, that's one thing. But in terms of, religious philosophies, it would be nice to see more of a public forum for shows like this. I've often thought, what if I were a bajillionaire media mogul like Ted Turner? I've always thought it'd be nice to just have a cable network. There are science cable networks, but I'd also like to have something that's like a science and, rational thought, something that was, a secular, a cable network with a scientific and a secular thrust that might have some sort of a national dial-in phone or email show like ours, and just get that point of view out there, because people aren't even presented, I think, with atheism as an alternative even.
Yeah, I think spitting in the face of the medium I'm currently on, I think a lot of TV is rubbish.
You think? And, you didn't watch Joe Millionaire when the guy with the...
I refuse to answer that question on the grounds that it may incriminate me.
Jenny made you watch Joe Millionaire. The truth is out. I'm sorry.
But
I'm determined to get you in trouble on this show.
Anyway, so he got the $1 million check, and sorry.
Wouldn't it? Okay, but anyway, see, we have so much fun on this show.
I think let's see. I think radio would be a good start, and we're seeing it easier to get broadcast thanks to the internet, and there's stuff like the Atheist Network that's popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
don't know how, whether that'll ever translate into like a big budget type of, everybody sees it while they're channel surfing kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
one discussion we did have about this before is trying to expand the show, is that the shows need advertisers. And while this may be a big show that would draw audiences, does Pampers really want to, affiliate with the atheist community?
Yeah, I know that there's all this, part of what the purpose of the show is to try to combat a lot of this, the stigma and the prejudices that believers have about unbelievers, and just we're here to answer questions and present our points of view and have a good time.
We are right. We are like 15 to 20% of Americans, aren't we?
So it was I think it's 14 was the last figure.
Okay.
Who knows? But that's still sizable, and but yeah, and I guess until we get some Ted Turner-ish guy behind us, though, you're quite right, John. Who knows? I think it's just going to be something that is a gradual evolutionary process of more and more secular. Of course, they already the far right wing conservatives already are complaining that they seem to think that the liberal is far too the media is far too liberal and conservative. Liberal and secular.
You notice that when we talk about them, we respond to their arguments. Whereas when they talk about us, it's usually, how dare they be on the air at all?
So there's a lot of that to overcome. And,
have you guys heard about the new Penn and Teller show? I think.
Have heard of it.
Unfortunately, nobody seems to get Showtime.
I think one of our members.
Oh yeah, Jeff.
Yes,
I haven't seen it.
So it'll be. I'm just going to wait for the DVD box on that. But again, that's a start. Yeah. And they're making it entertaining and funny, and so just to get that discussion out there.
Go Penn and Teller.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the thing to do is watch their show and help it get good ratings and bring them back for another season of it.
I think you guys need to have Ted Turner on your show maybe next week. I'll tune in and I'll be on the lookout.
Well, can you put us in touch?
Good luck there.
Don't hold your breath on that one.
All right, guys, keep it up.
Well, I appreciate your call. Take care. All right. Well, I think I pretty much anything to sort of wrap up with here in the last couple minutes of the show?
It's too bad no Creationists calling this week. They always seem to run and hide when we have, when we actually are prepared to talk about it.
Well, we had the one guy, we had Steve the Creationist, who was our weekly troll who used to call us back when Jeff D was host.
I don't miss him.
I don't miss him at all, but I realized that I think that his whole trip was, of course, he was there to sort of goad the host at the time, Jeff D, and just to get him all riled up, because he was trolling after a while. I don't think he had any honest points. Yeah. Because what he would do is he would call every week, right, and he'd bring up some topic.
Right.
Like the Paluxy Riverbed man tracks.
Yeah.
Which even, the creationists themselves are like, oh, let's not talk about that anymore.
In fact, isn't he one of the main reasons why we made the FAQ in the first place?
I think so, yeah.
He was
but anyway, he would call up, right, and he would do this scattershot arguing where he would toss all these topics out.
A common creationist tactic.
And then we would respond to them.
And then he would change the subject.
Yeah, and then the following week, he would call back and he would completely not acknowledge the fact that we had responded to the points that he'd already made in his previous calls. And he would just immediately launch onto some new topic now that he wanted us to explain or debunk or what have you, and so on and so forth. And at that point, began to realize, he's just calling to make Jeff mad. He's just not really sincere.
Creationism is all razzle-dazzle. They all want to do public forum debates. They don't want to do, written debates where people can look up information and present evidence. Because if you go to talk.origins on Google Groups, you'll notice that any creationist who shows up either doesn't stay around very long because they get so decimated in the first few days, or else they turn out to be a complete nutcase, objectively. But remember, it's 250 Steves agree.
Right. and it's the same. It's the same thing that is behind the fact that so many, even the degreed and reputable intelligent design advocates, like guys like Michael Behe, who has published peer-reviewed papers on molecular biology, which is his field. When he came out with his creationist writings, he bypassed the peer review process entirely and went straight to the popular media.
Right.
It's the same reason that they want to just do these public debates where they can get in front of a stage and have, people cheering and clapping.
And they say they're being censored by the scientific community and not allowed to publish their papers. They're not trying.
But and it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for them to win people over who are just members of the lay public, not educated in science, to their point of view, than it is to win over actual scientists who are going to rebut their points. So that's why they would rather do these debates.
In my mind, it's no coincidence that the leader of the creationist movement right now is a lawyer, not a scientist.
Very telling. Well, thanks a lot to all of our callers. Russell, great to be on the show.
Thank you.
I miss everybody next week. I'm sure the crew is dancing up and down with joy. But, I'll be back 2 Sundays from today. And Ashley, you'll
be on next week.
Take the reins. And TV at atheist-community.org. Visit our website. All the links are there. Read our viewer email page. It's mucho hilarious. And theists, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. Bye-bye.
Bye.